Hey, what's up guys? This is going to be the 8-month and 20-day check-in. Thanks for clicking on my video. Thanks for watching. Let me start off by saying that. Expressing some gratitude to any of you that's viewed my channel, to any of you that's liked my channel, any of you that's supported my channel. I appreciate you. I appreciate the support. I also am giving much support back to you guys. I want to restore the balance and let it be known that I appreciate you, and I appreciate every single one of you that is doing it, doing things like myself, living to our full potential. In this video, I want to talk about how I knew that it was time to quit nicotine, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. This is an informational video in order to help you so that you can know how it's time and when it is time to quit nicotine. Some things that you can point at to say, hey, I think it might be time to go ahead and try to switch things up a little bit. And everyone will have their own time to quit. Everyone will quit on their own time because it's up to that individual to make their own decisions. And when time is right for you, then it'll be right. And you'll know when the time is right to make that decision. It helped when I was ready to quit nicotine, because a couple of times I knew that I wasn't ready, and so that led to relapse. But it definitely helps when you know that you're ready to quit nicotine. So starting off with mentally, if you're having thoughts about quitting nicotine, and you also have, thoughts about changing your behavior, it's going to be pretty obvious to you what you need to do in order to help that go away, and in order to kind of give yourself a little bit of a mental, allow yourself to relax mentally and not be so keyed up all the time. If you're always thinking about your addiction, you're always thinking about quitting, you're always thinking about the effects that your addiction has, rather than dwelling on that, mentally try to use it as motivation to quit, right? And if you're also having thoughts about quitting, then I assume that, it's time for you to start to do things that help your mental state, rather than keep you locked into this sort of mental prison that you find yourself in with addiction. So physically, whenever I was about to quit, my vapes, I always did disposables. Like I said before, I started off on Juul, but none of that's really important. I did vape nicotine for 5.5 years, let that be known, but physically, they stopped really having any effect on me. And granted, I didn't take many tolerance breaks or any breaks to kind of reset that. So I would be basically hitting my device all day. So basically, what I want to say is, I knew it was time when it wasn't really affecting me. I wasn't taking much pleasure or any enjoyability in the addiction anymore, which had been the one thing that kind of kept me in it and that drawn me in the first place. And I knew that I want better things for, this physical vessel of mine, and I want to treat it like a temple, and I don't want to continuously just do actions, unanimously act on the body and do things that aren't in line with my purpose, and that I'm not okay with anymore. So these things kind of started to build, my senses of, okay, something needs to change. I need to make a difference. The way I've been doing things is not necessarily working for me anymore. And so when I get into, and then to add on to physically, I just felt like my body needed to detox from the nicotine. And for me, I found, as you guys know, it's been 8 months and 20 days without nicotine, that I don't need it, right? And that I've gone 8 months and 20 days without it. So it's like almost I needed a break from it. There was too much of it in my body, and it was physically telling me that, you know, you're done with this. It's time to move on. And spiritually, how I knew, I had the spiritual intuition of, this isn't right for you no longer. This isn't something that you're going to continue to do. This is something that you've already spent a lot of time in. You've done the growth in this area. You've done the experience in this area. It's time to start something new and to move on to the next part. You know, it isn't in your best interest to continue to keep using nicotine like this. Spiritually, I knew, and this went hand in hand with THC, that, you know, I was one day just hanging at the house, and I just got these senses and these, you know, this intuition that, stop doing this. This is not benefiting you. It's time to move on now. And so I just knew, and that was really the big pusher in my reality, was the spiritual sense of ready to move on, ready to start to grow on from this. And so take that in mind, guys. Definitely help yourself by being, you know, ready spiritually, mentally, and physically. And then emotionally, every time I did end up going back to the smoke shop to buy a new vape, instantly I'd open it up, I'd get my first buzz, and then I'd be like guilty. I'd be a little bit shameful. And, you know, even if those aren't really that upfront, those feelings of shame or guilt of addiction, then don't be pushing it under the rug, because all that stuff's going to come out. Stuff you've been putting behind, stuff that you've been putting on the back burner, is going to come out once you do end up quitting nicotine. And that's not a bad thing. You know, that's a good and a bad thing, because it's a good thing because you'll be releasing it, but you may look at it as a bad thing because it might be hard to deal with. And emotionally, it's going to help you to balance out once you are not feeling so low. I noticed that around this time period, I was very low, and it happened to be why I felt that low is because of the place I was in my life, and that had partly to do with my nicotine addiction. So I was able to point at that for a reason of why things were so low at the time, and I was able to decide to move on from that, to actually make the decision that I'm gonna make a commitment to feel better from now on. I'm not gonna continue to mentally, physically, and emotionally and spiritually, you know, just drown out my true colors through those areas. I'm not going to allow myself to continue to do that and continue on the self-abusive, self-destructive activity or behavior that I've been involved in. And that's kind of just how I knew it was time for me to quit nicotine. Like I said, it'll be different for you. But yeah, guys, this is just informational for you guys to help you guys quit, because I noticed that a lot of people have trouble with knowing when the time to quit is, and a lot of anxiety based on and around quitting. And you got this. It's going to be okay. You're going to get through it. Like I said, I have this quote that I always say, you know, the easy part is quitting. The hard part about nicotine addiction is the nicotine addiction. I know it sounds reverse when you are addicted to it, because it's just easier to stay in your comfort zone. But once you quit, you start to realize that it's true. It's easier, the life that you live once you've quit, and then it is to continue the hard path of supplying and fueling your nicotine addiction. But yeah, guys, like I said, if you are going to do anything, make sure moderation, and make sure you guys stay protected. And if you need anything, you know, let me know. This is the 8-month check-in with no nicotine, 8 months and 20 days. I'm out.